archaeologists are able to give clear answers to these questions.
For this list, we're looking at baffling historical questions that have recently received likely and widely agreed upon explanations. What do you make of these answers? Let us know in the comments below. Number 10. The impossible Egyptian sculpture. Housed in the National Museums, Scotland, is this so-called impossible Egyptian sculpture. Just a tiny thing, it depicts a young pharaoh sitting in the lap of a mysterious person whose face has been unfortunately sheared off. For a long time, neither the kneeler nor the pharaoh could be identified. Making the sculpture even more impossible to discern was the fact that pharaohs are never depicted with non-royal individuals in ancient sculptures. But thanks to recent work done by the museum's curator, Margaret Maitland, the mystery has finally been cracked. This statue was made by a cult at Deir el-Medina, which was given exclusive permission to depict kings with non-royals. It likely depicts a young Ramses II sitting on a cult leader named Ramose. Number 9. Atlantis of the Sands. Iram of the Pillars, Atlantis of the Sands. Call it what you will, but everyone has heard of the Arabian city that was swallowed by the ground. As with many legends, experts have found that there may be a kernel of truth behind the tale. In 1992, archaeologist Nicholas Clapp found an old fortress buried under the sand in Oman. Over 2,000 years old, this fortress is thought to have collapsed into a sinkhole and became the source of legend. Further work postulates that this fortress was part of a trading city area known as Ubar that figuratively collapsed once the fortress fell and the demand for incense decreased. Number 8. The honeycombed skull of Otranto. On the very eastern tip of Italy lies the coastal town of Otranto, which was targeted in 1480 by Sultan Mehmed II during his invasion of Rome. This skirmish resulted in the martyrs of Otranto, some 800 local men who refused to convert to Islam. Their skulls are proudly displayed in the Cathedral of Otranto, and one is honeycombed with 16 perfectly round holes. So what exactly caused these perforations? The question baffled historians for centuries, until the University of Pisa provided an answer in 2015. They acknowledged that the holes were made by a surgical saw in the late Middle Ages, as bone powder made from religious martyrs was thought to aid in various health afflictions. Number 7. Puquios. Found in southern Peru are a number of spiral wells tunneling deep into the ground. These spiral openings are called puquios, meaning source or spring, and they're formed from a wall of stacked rocks. Not only is it an amazing sight, but it's an amazing feat of agriculture. These holes form part of an irrigation system meant to bring fresh water throughout the dry desert. But for a long time, we didn't know exactly how they worked. Well, that was answered by Rosa Laspinara and Italy's Institute of Methodologies for Environmental Analysis. They not only proved that puquios are pre-Hispanic, they also explained that the intricate system of puquios utilized wind to push water through a series of underground canals. Number 6. The Water of Palmyra. Found smack in the middle of Syria is an ancient city called Palmyra. This was an extremely prosperous city during the Roman Empire thanks to its prime location on ancient trade routes.
In the 3rd century, the kings of Palmyra, notably the famous Queen Zenobia, confronted the Romans and in fact at times managed to conquer major parts of the Roman Empire in the east. They basically controlled an area all the way from Asia Minor, from Turkey today, to Egypt.
There was just one problem that baffled historians for years. How did such a massive city thrive in the middle of the desert? The University of Bergen worked with members of the Palmyra Museum to find answers. Using satellite photos, they studied the surrounding land and realized that buried grass roots kept rainwater on the surface. This rainwater would then form a shallow river called a wadi, and it was collected using a series of dams and cisterns. Nature provided, and humans did the rest. Number 5. Roman concrete. Called opus caementicium by the Romans, their concrete was a special kind of sturdy.
Now this amazing material, Roman concrete, it has the great advantage that it can be made by semi-skilled people.
Concrete is notoriously unreliable and prone to cracks and breakage, yet Roman concrete structures are still standing after thousands of years. So what gives? It's as easy as ash and lime. A volcanic substance known as pozzolanic ash was used in the production of Roman concrete, which prevented cracks from spreading.
First of all, in terms of its composition, Roman concrete is a mixture of lime, sand, water, of course aggregates, Basically, it's modern concrete.
This was further backed by research done by Stanford's Tiziana Vanorio, who found a natural concrete-like material at the volcanic region of Campi Flegrei. But that's not all. Not only were cracks prevented from spreading, they completely self-repaired thanks to the presence of lime. Number 4. The Great Pyramids. The Great Pyramids have long been a mystery, their answers known only to those who built them. They could be considered the world's most startling architectural achievement, so much so that we still don't know for sure all the details of their construction.
The pyramids of ancient Egypt stand like giant sentinels watching over the city of Cairo. Built more than 2,000 years before the birth of Christ, these stone giants continue to mystify and captivate archaeologists seeking to understand their origins and purpose.
But many answers have been revealed over time. We know they used the Nile to ferry limestone and that they quarried the blocks from nearby Central Field.
When the water level was at its height, the blocks were floated downstream on barges. They were then unloaded onto a specially constructed landing wharf. A massive ramp was also built, via which the great blocks could be hauled to their destination as the pyramid took shape.
We know they took hundreds of thousands of laborers roughly 20 years to build. And we know they used ramps to build the pyramids in horizontal layers. Perhaps most exciting was an abandoned quarry found in 2017, which helped answer how the blocks were made and confirmed that 250 could have been produced in a single day.
Such an awesome feat would never be attempted again.
Number 3. The Maya calendar. It's frankly amazing what ancient civilizations knew about the universe. Constructed in pre-Columbian Mesoamerica, the Maya calendar baffled scholars with its use of 819 days. They correctly posited that it had something to do with the planets and their orbits, but the timeline simply didn't match with the calendar.
Lending credibility to this conspiracy theory, a string of natural disasters with intensities not seen in recent times struck our modern civilization and caught us very much unprepared.
The problem was that we were thinking too small. It wasn't just 819 days that we had to look at. That was just one of 20 different periods that encompassed a total of 16,380 days, or approximately 45 years.
It's amazing, the almost organic understanding that the Mayans have of mathematics, a mastery, which also led them to conceive of the number and the concept of zero.
When viewed through this 45-year window, the orbits of the observable planets line up perfectly.
And the Mayas used a very complicated system of calendars. They used some 20 calendars altogether. There were 3 primary calendars that were critically important to them.
The mystery was finally cracked by scholars working at Tulane University, who published their findings in the journal Ancient Mesoamerica. Number 2. Troy. For a long time, the existence of Homer's Troy was under question.
It's a story that's been told and retold by poets and actors for thousands of years. But is it real? Did the city of Troy actually exist?
The ancient Greeks believed the city was real, but this opinion eventually fell out of favor. For many years, most people regarded Troy as a fanciful place of legend.
In this place, the ancients believed Troy had stood. Here, one said, no stone is without a name.
That is until 1871, when Heinrich Schliemann and Frank Calvert began their excavations in modern-day Hisarlik, Turkey. Found on the west coast of the country, the city of Troy contains 9 distinct layers, as new settlements would be built on the ruins of others.
Schliemann, with his interest in Homer, was not the first in this area. Frank Calvert, a British expatriate, had been living in the area from 1845 onward. He grew up in this area and gradually amassed a tremendous amount of textual evidence for where Troy lay.
Many experts believe that Troy 6 was the city upon which the mythical Troy was based. While the truth of the Iliad remains cloudy, there is no doubt that Troy itself existed in some form.
History can never confirm if Homer's heroes ever lived, nor whether the legendary Trojan horse ever existed. But thanks to modern archaeology, the city in which Homer placed his heroes, the lost city of Troy, is lost no more.
Number 1. The vanished army of Cambyses II. Ruling the Achaemenid Empire between 530 and 522 BC was Cambyses II. Shortly before his death, Cambyses II sent an army of 50,000 men to intimidate the Oracle of Amun in the Siwa oasis of Egypt. However, the entire army fell victim to a massive sandstorm and was lost forever.
They were said to have been lost without trace. But is it just legend or terrible truth?
It sounds like a fanciful tale, and for many years, that's exactly how it was regarded. The primary source is Greek historian Herodotus, who has been known to spin a tall tale, and no physical evidence was ever found.
For the Persians, this must have been a huge burden. The logistics make it virtually certain that Cambyses' army could not have been as vast as Herodotus said.
That is, until 2009, when brothers Angelo and Alfredo Castiglione found Persian tools and human remains near the oasis. According to the University of Lecce, it was, quote, the first archaeological evidence of the story's veracity.
Many have searched for this army, but all have searched along the oasis route. The oasis of Dakhla, Farafra, Ain Dala, then across the desert up to Siwa. We worked on a different hypothesis since these oases were